Coming up, let's hear from mobile wireless industry expert, partner Steve Brumer from 151 Advisors here at CTAA Super Mobility Week 2014.
You're watching YBL TV.
As a consulting firm for global mobile and technology companies, your services run the gamut from marketing and sales to human resources, product development, financing, capital, you name it. Your areas of practice, wow, they deal with such compelling, disruptive technologies. Let's talk about the very first one, the big one, IoT. What are your thoughts? I'm sure you've got a lot of them.
IoT is obviously exploding. There are many opportunities for companies like us to be able to help organizations. So basically we're looking for, like you said, disruptive technologies, geeks that really have some cool things that don't know how to sell, market, or bring their products to North America. So we deal with companies from Singapore to Lithuania to Athens to the UK to Czech Republic, because they are developing really different things for the IoT business, and we need to be able to get those things to market.
Where do you see companies monetizing with this wonderful disruptive technology, IoT?
Well, that's the big question, and that's where we spend the majority of our time, because most companies that have really thought about developing a product have never thought about, oh my God, how am I going to make money doing this? And so we spend an exorbitant amount of time on that go-to-market strategy. What is the ecosystem going to look like? Who is actually going to buy your product? Is it going to be a hardware manufacturer who's going to take your product and put it into their product? Is it an end user? Is it a consumer? Is it an enterprise? Is it a utility? Is it a public safety company, or like a utility to buy stuff to monitor? We just got a new client that does street light monitoring. We come in and try and figure out, how are you going to sell that? Are you going to sell it directly? Are you going to sell it through resellers and integrators? So we're trying to figure out all those pieces to make it a lot easier for them to figure out how to monetize it.
Let's talk about some distribution channels, strategies. Where are they lying? What are the biggest areas that you see?
That's a very great question, but a difficult answer, in the sense that you have some distributors that have their act together and actually understand this entire system. So we deal with companies as large as Ingram and Tech Data and Synex, and then smaller, more specialized distributors and resellers. One of the problems that we have right now is finding the resellers, identifying and qualifying them who really get it and have a practice that can actually sell and support customers for whatever, whether it's in enterprise mobility, whether it's an MDM, an EMM, or developing apps, and or M2M and IoT, because you have to understand the pieces of the solution. You have to understand what you're trying to sell and how are you going to sell it.
What are some of the best practices for managing and deploying apps?
Right now it's a very difficult answer, because one of the things that keeps on getting misplaced is looking at the end users, understanding what they're going to do with the apps and what are they going to have, what's their potential when they're deployed. So many times decisions are made by corporate and executive level people on the app that they believe that the sales guy is going to use, and you end up deploying that app. It is not adapted really well by the users because you forgot to involve them. You forgot to ask them if they have a BYOD policy. So I might use a tablet all the time, you might use a smartphone all the time, I might use Android, you might use iPhone. So you forget to understand the pieces of what it takes to deploy that application across all the OSs, all the platforms, all at one time.
Where do you feel is the future with a lot of this proximity marketing, NFC, BLE?
We have a client. Digital Element is the leading reverse geocode company in the world. They do about 4 or 5 trillion lookups a month for major clients. And so that whole concept for mobile marketing and understanding where you are, that whole market is exploding as it relates to your location. But again, it's like, I have a little concern about Big Brother knowing where I am, including my family. Don't worry, family, you know where I am now. When I opt in, that's great, but it's intrusive in some particular points. How often are you going to get those coupons? Every time I'm driving by a store, everything else there. I look at IoT as a huge exploding opportunity, because as we start to figure out how to put together refrigerators and washer and dryers and heaters and air conditioners, and what are we going to save, and what's the advantage of it, how, all my things controlled by my device. I think you're going to find technologies that are going to come down the pipe that are going to be a little bit different, that are going to help with that bandwidth issue that we're going to have.